A very tight defensive game between the Panthers and the Blue Jackets, but it was the Panthers victorious with an overtime winner.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Monoman12. Follow show count on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Subscribe. And if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And you could do that all on FanDuel. So the Florida Panthers go into Columbus and sweep the season series in a game where neither team got a goal in the first 60 minutes, and we had to wait until overtime. And it was Alexander Barkov with the overtime winner on the power play, which the Columbus Blue Jackets committed a penalty 30 seconds left in the third period. And Alexander Barkov was able to finish things off 28 seconds in the extra frame on the 4-on-3, beating Elvis Merzlikins past the blocker, and the Panthers get the 2 points in overtime. And here to recap this 1-0 Panthers win over Columbus to sweep the season series is Friday, which means it's Fairbanks Friday. And Nick, welcome to the show. And man, for a 1-0 final, that was one fun hockey game where you just saw just a defensive clinic. It wasn't necessarily goaltenders standing on their heads with a whole bunch of shots. Both goaltenders performed well, but man, was there not a lot of space out there for either team tonight?
Definitely had a feel of more or less that both teams didn't want to make a mistake. I think Florida is playing more of a base package of what they usually roll out because of all of the injuries that they have, which is smart. They don't want to, give up offense if it's going to give up defense, or they don't want to extend offenses if it's going to give up defense, especially after the injury to Kulikov. So, while it may be boring to some, this is the type of package that the Panthers want to play, and they want to play going forward. So, if they're going to win 1-0, win 2-1, then that's good for me in my book. And, if it's not going to be hard on Bob and he gets a shutout, even though it doesn't feel like he got a shutout, like I noticed it after the OT winner that he got one. I think that points to good things for the team.
Yeah, that's 8 straight wins for the Panthers over the Columbus Blue Jackets, and 5 of them being shutouts, with now it being 2 straight this season for them. And to think that the Panthers were basically dominating the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first period, which the Barkov line, when I was previewing this game, I was thinking, what's Steven Evason going to do, knowing that the Barkov line dominated the Fantilli line, the most recent one where the Panthers got the last change, and he was putting the Danforth line against Barkov, and then matching Fantilli against Lundell, which Paul Maurice gave that Lundell line a lot of praise for how they matched up on the night. And then just flipping the script, I mean, almost double the amount of shot attempts for Columbus in the second period. I mean, but Panthers to begin, it was just faster to puck, supporting, battling along the boards. There was a stat of 4 of the 5 chances off the cycles was from that Barkov line as well, but also the penalty kill coming big, especially with the Sam Bennett hook, where Nico, especially on a big chance that the Columbus Blue Jackets had with Nico Sturm falling after a draw, and then Sergei Bobrovsky coming up with a stop, and then the amount of times that we saw the mini breakaways in the case that the puck came loose, and then there's this one big save that Bobrovsky had at the very beginning of the period, sticking the left leg out with a little bit of a battle with Tobias Bjornfoot there as well. So for Tobias Bjornfoot being called up in the minutes and pairs being what they were, keeping them together, at least the top and the bottom pair. I mean, you got to be impressed by still the familiarity there from a guy like Toby Bjornfoot.
And you didn't really notice that he made any mistakes, which is great to see. I mean, he hasn't played up in the last couple months, and it's the Panthers are right now at a point where it's next man up. Who's going to come in, who's going to do their job, and who's going to do it well. I made a comment, in our little chat that after the second period, you saw that Toby had 3 more minutes than Uvis Belinskins, and I kind of wonder why. Not really, but I think it just goes to show that I think Maurice really likes his game. He trusts him, and on top of that, Mikola can play with him. I think Mikola has actually shown this year that if given the right partner or given the type of defenseman that he's going to play with, he can play with anybody. He's played well with Seth Jones so far, and after Brandon Montour departing, I just think it's been a nice fit, and Bjornfoot just comes in and also fits that mold. So I think going forward towards the end of the season, if we don't see Kulikov, I mean, they said that we were. If we don't, then I'm perfectly okay with seeing Bjornfoot taking the rest of the games of the season.
Yeah, that now looking at the time on ice for Bjornfoot over Belinskis, almost more than 4 minutes of total time on ice, and after the stop by Bob on in the beginning of in the third period, Belinskis had another careless pass that Adam Fantilli almost scored on right as they were breaking out, and this is something that we've seen far too often of him in the season. But also, I'm very encouraged by how the Panthers were able to adjust whenever they also had the puck on the blue line after winning battles and working them low to high. If there was a pass that was or a pass or a shot that was blocked right at the top of the zone, the defensive zone for Columbus, the Panthers had a hard time at the beginning winning those races to the pucks. But as the game went on, you saw that the Panthers had their heads on a swivel more often, and they were giving up less of those mini breakaways where we saw those forwards getting back. So it really helped with those battles along the crease. I mean, there was this one especially, I mean, this the goal didn't count where Boone Jenner kicked it in, but man, what a battle that was for Erod being around the crease right before Bobrovsky protested it. Thankfully that it was a quick review and it stayed 0-0 there. But also a few minutes later, Voronkov also had a chance where he didn't do a kicking motion. With the puck hitting the skate there, that would have counted. I didn't think that was a kicking motion there, but just goes wide to the net after the Panthers lose the battle. So a lot of chances where the Panthers were back when they needed to, and also positioning where you saw wide open net, and it just goes to show once again, game of inches.
Oh, it definitely is a game of inches. I mean, you have Boone Jenner over here kicking the puck like he's Beckham into the back of the net. And, I'm glad but that's when, Bob's locked in. He waved off the goal himself like, hey, no, this doesn't count. But the one thought I have about how the Panthers play the Blue Jackets is, how do you stifle a young team that is good on their feet as far as speed goes?
Oh, yeah.
You stuff them in the neutral zone, make sure that they can't ramp up their speed. And then secondly, if they do get in, you do, as you said, have to have your head on a swivel, and you have to move the puck quickly. You need to catch them in transition. And, I felt like the Panthers did, a pretty good job with that. It's just the puck was not going in the back of the net. And I felt like there was a couple times where, Verhaeghe, Reinhardt, and even Forsling, with his, slap shot of 105 miles an hour that they recorded, it could have been very well a 3 or 4, goal game for the Panthers. But you know what? A win's a win. I'll take it, especially after how people have been perceiving this team over the last couple games and the injuries. Relax. We're going to be fine.
Yep. And definitely encouraging when you just think of the amount of times that maybe the Panthers were having a hard time just getting out of their own end. I mean, there was one shift in the second period where Seth Jones was on the ice for over 2 minutes, and then he was able to get off. It was 5 minutes left in the second period, and that's where the Blue Jackets were really starting to make a push themselves. And then also the fact that power play one for the Panthers, zipping around after that, but they couldn't convert there. But even on the penalty that Sam Bennett committed, power play one for Columbus was on the ice for 2 entire minutes. And the fact that once again the Panthers got 4 clears on it, just got to be impressed with this type of win for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss more of our 3 stars of the game and the moment where we knew the game was won. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Did you know getting a good night's sleep is the #1 recipe for long-term success in life? I didn't. It took me way longer to realize than I'd like to admit. It was years of tossing and turning. I was always tired. I never felt like I could live up to my potential, but not anymore. Thanks to Bear Mattress. I used their sleep quiz and I matched with the Elite Hybrid. It's perfect for side sleepers like me. Now I wake up energized. I'm getting deeper sleeps and I'm ready to attack the day. No matter how you sleep, Bear Mattress has a match for you with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Segment number 2 here on this Friday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show, here with Nich Fairbanks here after the Panthers defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets 1-0 in overtime to sweep the season series. So the broadcast mentioned the last time the Panthers went into an OT scoreless was actually against the Columbus Blue Jackets, Zach Werenski getting the game winner there. And it's crazy. When the broadcast also mentioned the last time the Panthers actually lost to Columbus and they mentioned 2022, I didn't even have to look it up. I knew exactly which game it was. Jonas Johansson versus JF Berube. Do you remember that game, Nick?
I don't want to. I really don't. I mean, that's just... Oh, God, no. I'm glad those days are over.
Yeah, I remember it was gave up 6 goals in it was like February or March, somewhere around there, late into the season as the Panthers were making their push towards the President's Trophy there. But the Panthers have had a whole bunch of memorable games. Sam Reinhart has performed so well against Columbus. Now he has 35 points against them. Anton Lundell, remember that 5-point game against the Columbus? The line of him, Sam Reinhart, and Mason Marchment there. Those are other memorable games that we've seen the Panthers have over Columbus there. But their streak of 3 goals did come into an end there, as the broadcast did mention. But hey, a win's a win. We're not going to complain much about it. But it's a win, which means that we are going to discuss our 3-star game here. 3rd star of the game, I'm going to go with Gustav Forsling. Him and Seth Jones. This was a nice little get-right game for that pair, knowing what has had to be made up with the injury to Aaron Ekblad. I'm going to read a little bit of the charts from Natural Stat Trick. 54% Corsi 4, 65% shots for percentage for him as well. Expected goals just under 63% for Gustav Forsling. There's an incredible tic-tac-toe play along with the 105-mile-an-hour shot that Gustav Forsling had, just hit the crossbar, but the Panthers were still able to get back, even though he was still like below the hashes there after the shot. So that's an encouraging thing of just what Gustav Forsling was able to bring there. Sergei Bobrovsky, number 2 star, just made a whole bunch of stops when he needed to, and even though it wasn't necessary, it was by definition a goalie battle based on the goals against, but still the chances that Columbus did have, Bob was able to answer the door and shut it down from there. And a number 1 star, Alexander Barkov, with the GWG for the Florida Panthers. This also kind of reminded me of the game against the St. Louis Blues at home, where it's just like it was time for him to take over. They score on the power play, which I mentioned even before previewing this game, that has been the little bit of the encouraging part for the Panthers, even though they've taken more penalties than the opposition over these last 4 games. They have been on the plus side, and now it's +3 in these last 5 for them. So Alexander Barkov gets the number 1 star for me. Your 3 stars, my friend.
Spoke about him earlier. Toby Bjornfoot. I call him Bjork for short. And I just think coming into a situation that he did and played as well and played extra minutes tonight just, again, shows that he has the trust of the coaching staff and that he can play the right way. So congratulations to him. I hope to see a lot more of him for the rest of the season if Kulikov can't make it back. But I have a feeling he's going to score his first goal as a Panther soon. Just putting that out there.
Would be his first in 4 years.
Yeah, because he was with LA when he last scored, I believe. So then my second star is going to be Bobrovsky. He was just a brick wall in net. He made the saves when he needed to, even on breakaways or chances that the Blue Jackets had. He was always there. He was in the right position. At no point did I think Scott was going to get past him, other than the kicking goal that Jenner had. But other than that, Bob is just showing again that he's in his prime. He's leading the Panthers when he needs to. He's picking up the slack when he needs to. And, if you haven't had a chance, I would go read George Richards' article today about, the backup plans for Bob and why the Panthers don't have a backup plan for him. So, and then my first one, yes, is Mr. Barkov, Mr. Silent, quote unquote, death that we've nicknamed him. Perfect shot. Kind of been wondering where he's been the last couple games as far as scoring goes, but he always torches the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think he's got 36 points in 35 games now. And on top of that, I think this basically put the nail in Columbus's coffin. They're at 70 points now. They needed this game badly. And I just didn't feel the urgency from them. I think they were probably too scared to make a mistake, and it cost them. Barkov finally puts a perfect shot on and puts the Panthers on top.
Yeah, and yeah, that and now that's 3 straight games of them being shut out as well. Based on them being shut out by the Rangers, the Golden Knights earlier. This was one that you knew that they had to have, and I think that it's very encouraging for what they're going to build in the offseason with the amount of cap space and the amount of buzz that they created from the Stadium Series as well. And you're right, 36 points in 34 games. Just looked up Barkov's splits, 15 goals and 21 assists there, just over a point per game against the Blue Jackets. Over a 16% shooting percentage for Alexander Barkov in those matchups. So when he gets the puck on his stick, there's a high probability of him of him scoring. So it very encouraging for the Panthers. And once again, with how well they closed the gaps, we didn't mention even about how they've been able to just we spoke about heads on the swivel after blocks, but also when Zach Werenski was on the ice. I'm going to look up quickly his time on ice here, but he logs a whole bunch of the minutes for Columbus. So I felt that they really managed things well for when he was on. So that's another thing that I had there. And this having a hard time loading, but let's just move on to the moment where we knew the game was won. Excuse me, for the Panthers. Sorry, it's funny at times. I was like, something's gonna happen and it's gonna go the Blue Jackets' way. So that I was mentally prepared. Thankfully, it didn't. But the moment I thought the game was won, I have a feeling we're gonna have the same. The moment that the Columbus Blue Jackets committed the penalty for the puck over glass, you knew that 30 seconds left, and even given a minute and 30 of 4-on-3 with a whole bunch of open ice, you knew that the Panthers were not gonna miss this opportunity.
So for me, I'll be honest, I think it was a little bit earlier because I think the Panthers were starting to push late in the third period, and they started to really hound them in the zone. Were they getting good looks? No, but I think they finally solidified making sure that the Blue Jackets were basically out of breath, or they were just tired. and they didn't really have a lot left. So I think once that penalty did happen, where Marchenko did elbow the puck out for a delay of game, I think it was just only a matter of time, and just really glad that they just started shooting the puck.
Yeah, so thankfully it only took one shot in the, in the overtime period and just ended it quickly, left no doubt, and the Panthers coming up with those 2 points there in the game, and just now that like as you said in the first segment, cooling the temperature a little bit, and the fact that the Panthers could relax, knowing that this is probably at this point their toughest stretch of the season with how much they're away from home. Even though the Panthers don't necessarily have a hard time winning on the road, they're very comfortable in these situations. But knowing that it's just a long time, and also you know what was great about this, Nick, is the fact that they took not 1 but 2 days off away from the ice before they returned to practice on Wednesday before leaving. So the fact that this team also had a little bit of time to just get away, which think about how calculated they have been over the last few years. In Paul Maurice's first season, there's back-to-back losses, and then Paul Maurice in his first year set the tone of, we're going to practice after coming off a back-to-back. But then when you think about a little bit of a skid with the team logging so many games, they say, okay, take some time away from the ice. And even before Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final last year, Bob didn't take the ice for practice, and he was ready for Game 7. It just amazes me over and over again of how well they're able to just let the previous losses not necessarily stay with them, but actually keep it in mind so that they can come out and be ready for the games after.
So I think one of the players that really benefited from this was probably Seth Jones.
Yes,
he was
absolutely.
probably my 4th star, just because he was noticeable tonight. He was hitting, he was clearing pucks, he was moving the puck very well, especially after the opportunistic game, I'll call it, against the Islanders, where unfortunately he did give up that goal. I think he needed a reset. He needed a little break. He's been taking on more minutes that, I don't think the Panthers were planning on giving him, just because, they had Ekblad, they have Forsling, he was going to be on the second pair. So I think tonight he was able to show, like, hey, I'm able to come back, I'm able to reassert myself, and make sure that we get the job done. So I think we're going to see a different Seth Jones, like, really soon. I just think right now they're asking a lot of him, and once things get put back in place, he'll be fine.
Absolutely. And it just takes a little bit of time when trying to get acclimated to a new situation, which so great game by him, great game by Gustav Forsling, and once again, the Panthers, an important win for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss more about the upcoming weekend for the Panthers, what some of the guys said in the locker room, and how we're viewing the playoff race at this point. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, and daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling lost, that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes needs a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy brings you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late watching some tournament action, and 5 Hour Energy helps keep me up the next day. With longer stays, I love getting outside for a hike or a run. Tropical Burst is my go-to quick boost. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy Shock at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Segment number 3 here on this Friday, March 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. The Florida Panthers are coming off a 1-0 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And it's funny, Nick, because I'm currently the Dallas Stars and the Tampa Bay Lightning are in a shootout right now. Right now, the Dallas Stars are leading 2-1 there for them. So Toronto won on the road in New York, which I believe the New York Rangers' playoff chances are dwindling down. It's not encouraging right now for what's going on in Manhattan. So I at first when I saw the win, I'm just like, okay, this could bite the Panthers maybe in tie-breaking scenarios later. But how tonight fell, and knowing how that they still have 3 more matchups against those 2 teams that they're battling, man, is it now once again, like we mentioned, the temperature can be cooled.
Yeah, I mean, we went through this last year, right? You know, the team wasn't looking like themselves. They weren't winning games. They looked very disoriented. You know, they looked barely like a feasible NHL team, let's be honest. I think this time around is a little bit different because we're dealing with injuries. And last year, I think it was all about preserving health and making sure that, you know, they weren't overexerting themselves so that they could have a long playoff run. Now you have major injuries to not only the blue line, you have a suspension, and you have major injuries to some forwards that, you know, I'm still waiting to see Brad Marchand in a Panthers jersey in a game, you know, and, you know, hopefully Matthew Tkachuk is healing up. I know he was at the Elbow Room for St. Patty's Day celebrating. So hopefully he's feeling much better.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just, you got to take it on, you know, a big picture view of this. You can't just allow 3 or 4 games to dictate what your season's going to be. If we did that in the last couple of years as Panther fans, we'd be going crazy. If we did that the last 20 years, got some bad news for you because most of it would be just going downhill. The Panthers are not very good for that time. But as of right now, you just got to take everything with a grain of salt. If it's one game, it's one game. If they don't win the division, it's fine. If somebody else ends up winning the division, they're just going to play who they're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm still confident that the Panthers will be able to come out on top.
Yeah. Lightning just won, by the way, in the shootout 3-2. And here's the thing, the Panthers winning in overtime and the Lightning winning in the shootout. Now the second tiebreaker is exactly 38 for both teams. So if if Tampa Bay does win their game in hand in regulation, they would still own the tiebreaker based on the second one, but because that would make them at 39. But still, it makes that things a lot closer here for the race for the division. By the way, did you see what Elvis Merzlikins was out for the last 2 games for Columbus? But because of the birth of his child? But did you see what the name of his child is? Did you see?
It has something to do with Johnny Gaudreau, if I read that right.
Yes, Jackson with an X. John Merzlikins is the name. So what a nice little dedication there for Johnny Gaudreau, his former teammate there. So that's pretty awesome for him. Just and just everything that Columbus has gone through with Johnny, and also the goalie that unfortunately died a few years ago as well. His name is slipping my mind right now. But also George Richards also tried discussing with Alexander Barkov after the game yesterday, just about encouraging him that it's a nice win. But Barkov not satisfied and saying, "Hey, we gave him too many chances that we wanted to." So just once again, it's a team that's locked in, which is definitely once again knowing that the Stanley Cup champions have something to play for, and this gives us a good opportunity to discuss the weekend. Last game of the season series between the Panthers and the Capitals coming up in Washington. And it's funny, people will look at the box score and say, "Oh, the Capitals owned the Panthers," but no, it's been 2 empty netters at the end of the games each time for them. The Panthers had a hard time scoring in the first one with a Spencer Knight start, and then the second go round, just 2 goals early on for the Capitals after it was tied after 40 minutes, and the Panthers just had to play catch up from there. And once again, the Capitals won tonight, and Ovi is now 7 goals away from the record. So very excited to see how the Panthers respond going into Washington. And then the second end of a back-to-back, which I will be boots on the ground for that one on Sunday in Sunrise. Both games finished in the extra frame, one of them in OT with a Brian Russ game winner, and then the other one in the shootout with Sam Reinhart scoring the only goal in the shootout in the second matchup back on January 3rd. So big back-to-back against 2 superstars in Ovi and Sid.
So I'm going to kind of lay off what I said last week going into last weekend, where I said there's 2 very winnable games, and some people want to jump off a building after those 2 games. So I'm going to reverse kind of what I said last week. These are going to be I'm not going to say that Pittsburgh game is going to be a playoff type game. Maybe it will be. Maybe they'll play tighter, but that's not their DNA. But I think it would be a good measuring stick to see where the Panthers are, even with all the missing players they have, where they stack up. Always love watching Ovechkin score. So if he ends up scoring a goal or 2, I'm not going to be mad as long as the Panthers can gut out a win. Let's just have fun. Get your game right, play the way you're supposed to. Don't let the other team dictate what you're trying to do, and just stay within yourselves. And you guys the Panthers should be okay. Which, let's be honest, the games last week, not Panther characteristic at all. They giving up those blown leads, not them at all.
Yeah, and to think that for the matchup against Washington, I mean, not only is it encouraging for what they're doing on the roster, but what's coming up in for as far as one of their prospects, Ryan Leonard, which brother of John Leonard, who plays for the Charlotte Checkers. He is up for the Hobie Baker Award along with Jack Devine. So he's one prospect that the Capitals is right on their way. So their retool and how they're building around the goal chase is just once again has that region just buzzing for everything. And also the fact that they're not overtaxing their goaltenders, that even though Logan Thompson does have the majority of the starts, it's not going to be a tired bunch. And the fact that they had 0 players once again going to that went to 4 nations, that's going to benefit them. Thankfully, they're on the other side of the bracket. So if the Panthers do meet them in a possible conference final, they'll still have a whole bunch of playoff games under them on both sides. So it'll be, for the most part, not for the most part, but at least in this season, equal playing field, hopefully, for that. And on the Pittsburgh side, for their goaltenders, Tristan Jarry's back after a little bit of a stint in the AHL. So a little bit of a time for him to actually get a little bit of redemption after being sent down for him.
I mean, maybe he wasn't the whole problem. Maybe it's their scheme and how they're playing and how they don't like playing defense, and they traded for Erik Karlsson and he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. It's a whole combination of things. Anytime I've seen Jarry, I mean, yeah, he's maybe given up a soft one, but a lot of goalies do. And it's just whenever I watch him play, he'll make a save when he needs to. I just think the team needs to help him and bail him out from once in a while, and they can't allow, breakaways or odd man rushes. And if they stick with him, I think he'll turn it around next season. But hopefully the Panthers can gut this one out too. They're still playing Crosby. You can never take your eyes off of him. Malkin's still pretty potent. And then you still have Chris Letang, who likes to, stir things up. That he's always doing something to the Panthers during the game. So hopefully Sam Bennett or somebody we can keep him in check.
Yeah, looking up Jarry's game logs as of right now, from January 14th to March 9th, he didn't play a single game. He was down in Wilkes-Barre. But since his return, 4-1-0 for him. So, and these are his save percentages in those 5 games: 967, 946, 914, 889, 919. So
Sounds pretty good to me.
talk about a good opportunity to get your that he's had to get his head straight before coming back, and it's resulted in a great play. Although the Penguins don't have a chance to make the postseason, they're a little far back. This could be a trap game for the Panthers. So that's why the Panthers returning home got to be on their A game. But hey, got to start with Washington. The fact that that's not an easy travel on a back-to-back. I wonder how the Panthers are going to manage. The fact that it's a 5 p.m. Start for them, I would assume that they would just fly immediately after the game and just pack their bags and immediately go back instead of staying instead of flying the next morning back home. So not going to be an easy travel wise for the Panthers here. So something to monitor based on their play whenever they do return on Sunday. But hey, we got to see how this game script goes on Saturday first, no, for sure. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Let everybody know where they can find you online, my friend.
Glad to be back in the win column. Hopefully Panthers can take 2 of 2 this weekend, but I'll take a split. And everybody, you guys can find me on X or Twitter at Prudential0. So, Armando, thank you again for having me on. I can't wait to be back next week.
Absolutely, man. And see you next week, my friend. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.